Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we finally have from Wednesday, Bleeds. Look, I already did my extended piece about this 90s infused alternative country by way of slacker rock back when I covered Manning Fireworks by MJ Lenderman last year. I get why it falls into the nostalgia window of a lot of Gen X critics and then kind of Gen Z by association, but as someone who's been considerably deeper in country for decades now, and some of that country would probably scratch a similar itch, that new Cole Chaney album is right goddamn there. It's one of the best of 2025. If you love this album, you'd absolutely love that. I don't see it getting the same press, but I just find Wednesday not nearly as compelling, especially when I see so much praise heaped on Carly Hartzman as a writer, and while she is really good, I think I'd be way more impressed if I hadn't spent the past 10 plus years with Sarah Shook or Lydia Lovelace, or so many others who straddle that alternative country rock-leaning lane. But of course, Bleeds is getting all the critical acclaim from the critics who largely sidestep that seam, often to their loss, with the narrative winding around Hartzman's breakup with MJ Lenderman, even as he helped record this album, hence the very cliched, obvious, and exasperating Fleetwood Mac parallels. I mean, Lenderman's not even on tour with them right now, by the way, and this album really doesn't align with that Fleetwood Mac comparison at all. Hartzman has described it as the natural continuation of Rat Saw God, and that feels considerably more apropos, with nothing nearly as specific as what Lenderman included on Manning Fireworks last year, as we just get more intensely textured snapshots of ragged southern scenes rife with death, poverty, misfortune, and flickers of heartbreak, with enough bemused yet wry disaffection to observe and find some traces of humor within it, walking that thin line between laughing and crying. And I think the subtext caught between the lines gives this more teeth in the emotionality than Rat Saw God, even if it still lurks in parasocial observance, where the emotional response can still feel a bit distant, both from Hartzman in the scenes, but also as a meta-commentary from the listener. I like the dismissal and tired forgiveness behind the ugly, misogynistic gossip of the relatively warm alt-country tones of Townies, where Hartzman was able to get out and actually take the high road. But for as pithy as you recognize she can be, she is just as self-critical. She might not even be taking the high road, especially if you read between the lines on The Way Love Goes, where she seems to have taken to heart the reality that as a writer, your words are weapons that can cut deeper than others might realize, and sometimes you use them on yourself. And even then, she doesn't shy away from the painstakingly mundane. I can hear the exhausted shrug behind the ugliness of the grinding candy breath, how everyone is divorced as the guitars wail, or how Bitter Every Day really does live up to its title alongside the Iris Dement callback. It's not special, none of these is, but it is relatable. And that acute sense of detail mostly seems better honed, like on the slow-motion, soft-focus, yet sour relationship collapse of Elderberry Wine that feels like the twin to She's Leaving You, or the downward spiral of Pick Up the Knife, where at some point amidst the stumbling inconveniences and bad decisions and howling riffs, you get a country-leaning tempo shift and you're actually forced to start fighting back. You wound up here by holding on. Now granted, I'm still left wondering if Hartzman's pulling some of her punches. These sorts of observations can start feeling somewhat trite in comparison with a more personal narrative, even if the album ends on Gary's 2 with a sardonic grin of false teeth from the now deceased landlord who got his revenge after getting his teeth knocked out by mistake against some of the gentle rollicking. It often feels a half step removed from deeper observations, often lingering on disconnected scenes that lack the investment of her own story, at least emotionally, like the bloated small-town drowning victim dredged up from the river on the grungy simmer of Wound Up Here by Holding On, or the Murdaugh observations that were pulled from the True Crime podcast on the oddly listless Carolina Murder-Suicide, probably the weakest song here, or even the re-recording of Phish Pepsi that's probably the most country, but still kept the muddy, lo-fi vocal leads opposite the cleaner drums. These are vivid paintings of the scene, but but they muddy an already scattered emotional through line, especially when there are songs that actually land that emotionality. Now, the other side to all this are the compositions and production, where even if I would agree there's more dynamic cuts here compared to Rat Saw God, with the increased inclusion of more steel guitar and more deliberate acoustic leaning moments, Wednesday remains a band where the gap between their best hooks and the songs that don't stick out at all from their influences, that's pronounced. To say nothing of the occasional squealing noise rock guitar tuning, like on the opener Reality TV Argument Bleeds, or on parts of Candy Breath, that just kind of strikes me as consistently jarring. It doesn't really combine with the rest of the riff, or the hardcore dalliance of Wasp. It wasn't bad, but didn't feel all that special either. It often feels like there's a heaviness that Wednesday brushes against in their writing that could be more consistently mirrored in the instrumentation, especially in the bass or the distortion that can occasionally feel a bit flattened. And that's what really irks me about Wednesday, even after I saw them live at Pitchfork Festival. There's a level of diversity and polish and steps in the right direction where I should like them a lot more than I do. I can hear the moments of real brilliance. There's some great songs on this album, but whether it's their passing relationship with hooks or a thematic core that should have more resonance or come together, or just how I'm nowhere near as enamored or impressed with this brand of throwback country rock, especially in comparison with the alt country peers working the past couple of decades. Oh yeah, it's good. In moments it's great, but I'm not all the way there. At least not yet. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, subscribe. Yeah, I know I'm going to get some backlash for this one. I know there's a lot of folks who are really high on Wednesday. I'm just not all the way there yet. I think the polish is there. I think there's a lot that I like, but this, it's got moments. Again, I see the development, I see the improvement, but I think there might just be more hype than it really aligns with where they're at right now. I don't want to hold over marketing or over praise against them. It's not their fault. But for me, this just continuously resides in pretty good. Not yet fully great yet. They might get there, but not sure this is it. But hey, if you have any comments about that, leave them down there below. Anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm also all ears. And hey, if y'all want to get involved in helping support the channel, get involved in getting albums on my schedule, so I could have covered this earlier, although I did have good reasons here, or hell, just yell at me on my Discord. Link to my Patreon and YouTube memberships is right over there. Once again, don't feel obligated. Tough times out there, I understand. There's probably a recession coming too, I definitely feel that, but the option's available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.